Welcome to our webinar. This is the third in our series about Scottish clans, their history, and their relevance today. We want to welcome to the many clans represented from all over the globe. Some of you have just been checking in. A warm welcome to our dignitaries who may be on board with us today. And of course, a very special welcome to the Buchanan, first chief of Buchanans in 340 years, and Lady Buchanan. Welcome.
Good evening and welcome. Happy to be with you.
And good morning, good evening, and welcome to all the Buchanans who are signed in today. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today.
I'm Van Calhoun, your co-host with Michael Lloyd Stearns, our moderator, who will tell you what's happening today. Michael?
Thank you, Van, and welcome to everyone again from around the globe. For most of you who've never been on a webinar, there are a few things that you're going to need to know. On your screen, you'll see a Q&A button where you can type in your questions when we are going to do, which we're going to do at the end of the discussion with the Buchanans. Please let me, when you type your questions in, please let me know your location of where you are as well. And you'll have the ability to use your mic to ask the questions. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael. So the Buchanan clan has been without a chief for 340 years. Tell us, how did this all come about? That's a big question, I know.
No mobile phones.
There was something, isn't there?
Yes, well, family folklore has always been that we had a pretty good claim. My forebears matriculated arms as a chieftain of a major part of the clan, and that was Buchanan of Lenny and Buchanan of Arnprior as well. And we always suspected that those were the senior lines, but we were not absolutely sure. As you say, it's a long time since there's been a chief, so the history to prove linkages has to go back a long, long way. And it goes backwards from the last chief till you find a common denominator with me, and then comes forward from there. So the linkage is long. I can't remember just how many, 30-ish, something like that, steps in the chain. We actually knew that linkage exactly, but there were other brothers and sisters and people who might have had a claim on it. And we had to go through a pretty lengthy exercise of proving that none of them still existed, or none of them still had a claim. Maybe just mentioning my father, if you matriculate arms as a chieftain or whatever, you're supposed to rematriculate arms every couple of generations in case things change. Definitely if you want to add titles and things like that. And my father considered doing this. And he had a discussion, he reports, with the Lord Lion, who said, why bother matriculating arms again as Buchanan of Lenny, which is nowhere in particular, whereas when you could claim to be the Buchanan of Buchanan. He didn't, and possibly because he knew how large a task it was going to be. But then eventually I repeated this story to Paula, and she said, well, we've got to do it sooner or later if we're ever going to do it. And the longer we leave it, it just gets more difficult, and then there's more links in the chain. So we went for it, and we were amazingly lucky to bump into Hugh Peskett, who was a Buchanan. His life's work with genealogy. Here we are, that's Hugh on Loch Lomond with Paula. He was fairly elderly when we took him on, and he unfortunately has passed on, but he completed the job. And he spent over 10 years, about 12 years on the case. And he's proven all sorts of genealogical tricks. He's found peerages, he found President Reagan's ancestry, he's done a couple of other chiefships, but this was his own chief, and he was really enthused by it, and he put a lot of effort into it. And it was a long trail, but we then did produce a complete case ruling out all the other possibilities, showing me as the hereditary chief, There's one of his customers there. Yeah. So in 2016, I think it was, we submitted the full package of materials with family trees and paperwork to the Court of the Lord Lion that decides these matters. Lord Lion then thought about it. He had a preliminary hearing to decide one or two issues, and then a proper hearing at which we were represented by a QC. And he then thought about it a bit more. And in October, I think it was 2018, he came to the conclusion and published his conclusion that I was the chief.
Buchanan, can you tell, for those of people who are listening, who the Lord Lion is, please?
Right. The Lord Lion is a Scottish post. It is a judicial post, I think one would call it. The present incumbent is a judge. He decides coats of arms. He decides lots of things like that. He gets involved in crowning in the inauguration of new monarchs.
He's a modern day druid, really.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, office of state, and he arbitrates on all matters of heraldry.
So
The side, actually.
because, oops, I'll let you finish. Michael, did you have a question?
No, I haven't. No, thank you for that.
Yeah. So because you decided, even though your father didn't want to change, you decided not to matriculate. And by proving your genealogy and your hereditary heirship to the chieftainship, that's what has brought along the fact that for the first time in more than 340 years, we're having an inauguration.
Yeah.
And so tell us about what an inauguration is like for a clan chief.
I'll pass over to Paula, who knows the details, but it's something that hasn't been done much, and there is a bit of a Bible. The best, okay, I'll pass on to Paula and she can tell you the whole details then.
Inaugurations, they're events which Scotland used to be full of tribes, it still is full of tribes, but a few thousand years ago, tribes used to live over the land, and they used to exist as individual units. And the most important part of the tribe was the succession, and to keep the tribes stable. Tribes were made up of people who've had experiences, group experiences. They've been encountered different events. They have different symbols which represent them. And they're very important to the tribe. It's the ethos of the tribe. And what happened when, if a clan or a chief of the tribe died, then they wanted to have a quick succession or smoother succession to the new chief as possible. So the inauguration was a way that the ancient tribes had to actually achieve this. And the structure was in place so that the last chief had court, and the last chief's wishes were given to the known by the people who run the chief's court, and the druid of the time. They interpreted that, and then they found out who was going to be the next chief. So that's what, and this inauguration was actually after they determined who it was going to be, and that was the event at which the tribe were actually shown the chief themselves. They were presented to the chief. And also the outside tribes also could see the chief as well, so they could see that the tribe stayed the same. It was moving on, although there's a few face changes. The tribe was the same as before.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the purpose of an inauguration from the earlier days until now has remained the same, but I'm suspecting the protocol is differed a lot.
Yeah, in the early days, it was all Pictish druids, and the ceremony. It was actually, there's a very good book which I found. It's called. It was written by Frank Adams, and it was edited by a former Lord Lion, and it actually showed the event of the inauguration as was then. And what happens is that after the chief is determined, all the symbols of the clan, it's like the clan would have had people to carve the symbol. If the tribe was a bear tribe, they would have a stone. They would carve a stone, a bear in a stone, or they would, if the tribe had taken part in a certain battle, they might have a memento from that battle. And it's basically all the physical objects. The tribes never had anything written down. They were very symbolic. They had physical objects and symbols, and that represented the tribe. So all these really precious, sacred objects were created, and they were kind of normally held by the chief. And when a chief died, they were presented by the chief's court to the new chief. And so it showed everyone in the tribe that this was a new chief, and it showed the outside people that this was a new chief. So don't mess with that tribe. You know, they're still strong. They still have the same ethos. That was a ceremony as was. And because the chiefs, because they're no more kind of chief court, the ceremony has kind of been lost over the years. So so the ceremony then now isn't the same as it is now. In fact, no one really does the ceremony now because the whole things have changed.
So why did you decide to actually do the inauguration in this format? What was the thought process behind that?
Fun. To provide a focus for clansmen scattered around the world, and to cement myself in the job, I think.
And yeah, but it's just kind of to reflect the past, but to try and bring it forward into the contemporary, because we have so much history, but this ceremony had basically been lost to time. And at the moment, if you're a chief is being inaugurated, they just get a certificate from Lord Lyon, and that's about it. But that's because you've lost the tradition that it used to be of having the chief's court and having these physical objects, which has all gone, because over the years with different wars and history changing kind of families and battles and all the different physical insignia have been lost or kind of destroyed. And so you've lost that. So we're trying to bring all this back again to try and kind of reflect the past, but bring it to a more modern age.
I think if I can add something perhaps there, I believe there are 2 or 3 of my fellow chiefs are listening in on this one. They probably simply inherited the chiefship from their father, and there was probably a sort of family gathering at which they had a funeral, and probably sort of uncle said, well, it's your turn now, and they might have had a dram of whiskey, and that was kind of it, probably. We have had this huge gap, so we're almost starting from scratch, and so reaffirming, re-establishing where we are is probably more important to us. There's no reason why other chiefs can't do it as well.
So in the course of rebuilding this ceremony that's important to you, you're also reconstructing the ceremony for all of Scotland and all of clans. Really, it's come back. And how important is this in all the ceremonies that have been in Scottish heraldry? The inauguration.
How important is it to who?
How important of a ceremony, amongst other ceremonies, is it to Scottish tradition, clan tradition?
I don't think there were much other ceremonies. I don't know.
It used to be the most important ceremony in tribal times. Times have changed, and in the clan structure has changed. So it's now almost forgotten. And you know, if someone says inauguration, what's that? So it really has been forgotten, because of after the 45, all the clans were dispersed. You weren't allowed to have 2 clan members talking to each other pretty much. You weren't allowed to wear a kilt. You weren't allowed to have traditions. You weren't allowed to have anything.
Yes.
And so all these traditions, which could have been lost, many clans were lost, and particularly in our clan, from what my husband said. So it's gathering those traditions back again and recreating traditions, but looking from the past to try and to do that, and to try and make it much more relevant now today, to reflect what it was in the past, really.
Yes. Well, okay, you're having this inauguration. Tell us about the ceremony and how it's going to be used in October at Cambusmore, the new Buchanan Clan Chief's Scottish seat.
Paula knows the details, but I'll just give her a brief introduction. It's going to be over 4 days altogether. The core of it will be Saturday, the 8th of October. But we're going to have Kaylee and various meals and stuff, and a clan parliament on the Sunday. The Friday and the Monday are more designed probably for people who've traveled a long distance and want to make something of a holiday out of it rather than just attending a single day or two. So we're off to the golf course on this Friday, and then we're not quite sure, but the plan is to do some tours around the clanlands on the Monday. But the core of it will be Saturday 8th. And perhaps Paula would like to go into some of the detail for me.
Yes, the Friday was basically everyone getting together and everyone meeting at Buchanan Castle. That's the old chief's seat, which is really important. And on the Saturday, there'll be the inauguration itself. There'll be the procession, inauguration, followed by lunch. Everyone can get to know each other. And then there'll be talks. I'm really excited about some really good speakers who are going to reflect different parts of the family history and like the relationship with Walter Scott, our family relationship with him, and with Buchanan Tartan, and how it all relates to the inauguration itself, and our event. And then on the Sunday, we're going to have in the evening on the Saturday, we're going to have a reeling party, which would be really fun. We'll teach you to reel. You don't have to worry about dancing in advance, but we can teach you how to do some reeling on the night. And on the Sunday, there'll be the Parliament, which is really exciting because it's the first Parliament that the clans had for over 300 years. And there'll be different ceremonies. And on the Monday, we'll be seeing all the Buchanan lands, which have been in the family for, since 800 years in the Callander area, which people just don't know about. So that would be really good.
Are other clans going to participate in your inauguration?
Yes.
Yes, we've got about 6 lined up, I think, so far.
How so?
The McNab, the McGregor, the McLaren are all due to come along. Yeah.
And Graham's. A lot of different clans, particularly our old neighbours, who we've probably had many battles with in the past. They're all coming. They're going to join us on the day because we've got to work together. We've got to move forward. I mean, neighbours always used to have spats in the old days, but now we've got other bigger issues. It's all about survival and actually everyone working together to identify old culture and just reflect that and enjoy it and celebrate it. And we're as you said, you're introducing everyone from around the world. I mean, the times have moved on from when it was just a small local area, a ceremony for a small local area. Now we're talking about global events. So that's really exciting. So we really want to give an opportunity to everyone abroad to enjoy it, celebrate it, and add their participation to it. Be more inclusive, really. So that's really exciting, the way the plan has changed.
From what I can gather, this historical event's been caught the imagination of the BBC. How did that come about?
Yes, well, after your story came out in the press, in the media, it caught the attention of a TV producer, Barbara, and she was very excited about hearing when she heard about the inauguration. And now she's been filming. She's been filming us actually on the run up to it, because we're recreating all these different insignia, and we were creating things from the past, from like the wee sword of Lenny, which was given to your ancestors over 1,000 years ago from the then king of Scotland, and we're recreating these. And she's been filming all this. She'll be filming the event itself. She'll be filming all these different things. So it's something. It's celebrating Scottish history, and it's something that she hasn't seen before. So she was, that's the wee sword of Lenny. We've recreated that, and that's for your ancestors' ownership of Lenny Estate, which is near Callander, which has been for since records began. Yeah.
And is that where that's the seat where the event is going to be held?
Canvas Moor up the top right of your screen is where we will be holding the inauguration. That map pretty much covers I think the boundaries are fairly fluid, but there are Buchanans scattered around all over that lot.
But we'll also be going to the, you can see on the bottom one, you can see the Buchanan Golf Club there. And that's in another important place. That's where I think part of the wall of the old Buchanan house, where the old chiefs, is still standing. I think it's in the garden of the golf clubhouse at Buchanan Castle. So yes, there'll be several places we'll be going to and having pop-up events there. So, and it's just reflecting the past and celebrating our ancestors and all just getting together, really.
Okay. Can you just tell us about the event itself? You mentioned on the Saturday is going to be the ceremony. Is it going to be a very medieval type ceremony? How can you describe exactly what the ceremony is going to entail?
We're working it out. It's going to be reflecting the past, but it's going to be more contemporary. So we're bringing together all different people in different roles, people who are coming to join us on the day. There'll be Buchanans will have different parts, will be hopefully awarded to be different parts of the Clan Chief's court. So there'll be different members there, and then they'll have different roles, like the sword bearer will bear the sword, and they'll have their own part to play. So it's recreating the Chief's court is what we're going to do. And that means a lot of people to a lot of different roles, and just reflect what was done in the past, just kind of recreate it, but in a more contemporary way, really.
A small teaser here. I know about your sword, the family sword, but do you have any relics that we'd love to know about buried in the back closet that you're bringing out after 1,000 years?
Sadly, a lot of what we should have had was nicked after the 1745, when when Francis Buchanan, who was in the line of the chiefship at the time, he didn't know it, but he was. He had all his affairs or all his possessions nicked, and there's probably stuff in there. But so we've lost a lot of stuff. We suspect the McNabs have got a sword of ours. We're still after that. But we've recreated the old sword as best we can from the picture that was available to us. And we've created new stuff. We've got new swords. We've got a seat. We're going to have a crown, or what are you going to call it?
We'll see. We'll keep it secret.
There's going to be...
To reflect, we're having a white rod, not a crown, but we're going to have different headwear, we're going to have different other things, we have a new inauguration tartan, and we're going to have things like insignia, physical insignia, to represent what was used in the past, but to be used at this event. And we're going to reflect, and we're also going to celebrate, celebrating Scottish craftsmanship for making all these different things, and they all have Buchanan themes to them. So it's basically recreating what was in the past using all these physical insignia. And this is the silver rose, a Jacobite rose, and we're kind of recreating this. It's like going back to the past. And this was at the uprising. Our family took a major role in the uprising, and as a result, your ancestor was executed because he was the head of the Bonnie Prince Charlie's armourer and financer, I think, wasn't he? So he was deemed a key Jacobite, and that silver rose shows his name engraved on it, and he was one of the main martyrs of it. So he was one of the chief martyrs. So it's just bringing that back and just showing the clans, our clan, particular clans, involvement in that major event for clans.
And I've just spotted this here. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Right. This is a glass that Bonnie Prince Charlie drank from. The family were great Jacobite supporters. The whole Jacobite uprising is probably something you could have an entire webinar about. But there were several of them that we the Jacobite cause, the Stuart cause, there were several rebellions starting in 1689, 1715, 1719, and then 1745 is the one that everyone knows about, when there was a pretty major uprising, and the Bonnie Prince and his army got within something like 50 miles of London, and there was no soldiers left in London to defend him. And he could, had he known it, walked in and become king again, but he didn't know that, and he turned back, and history was written that way. So Francis Buchanan there is the Bonnie Prince. That's a portrait that we've got. It's actually a copy by Raeburn of another one, but anyway, there he is. And that portrait hangs in pride of place in the house, above the fireplace in the dining room. It is the #1 portrait in the house, and all my relatives before me revered, I think, the Bonnie Prince, very highly regarded in this family. Francis Buchanan was one of the top dozen or so people in the uprising, and there were about 100 people executed. The only advantage of being one of the very top ones was he had all his estates not just stolen, but they were actually annexed to the crown. And actually, when everyone 20, 30 years later said, well, actually, we've finished with this uprising and we can get on with being neighbours and good mates again, the crown was actually able to return our estates to us, because the top 12 people had their estates annexed and then returned, while all the minor baddies in the uprising had their estates confiscated and sold on. So that was the only good thing to come of it. We did get the land back.
But the glass you saw was actually
the
glass he drank out of one on his way down to his fateful kind of loft.
The inscription retells the story of how he was passing through here on the way at the beginning of the uprising, and actually called in, I think, at a neighbouring house rather than ours, and drank from that one. Yeah.
But we also have other things as well. But you can find out when people come here. We have part of his banner, didn't we? Standard.
Got a bit of a banner, yeah.
Part of the only bit of Jacobite banner, standard banner, still here. So that will come out. That's another insignia.
Is the inauguration open to the general public?
Particularly, yes, by ticket. We're planning on about 300 people thereby. We've sold quite a few so far. There's a website where you can sign up for the different days. Does cost, I'm afraid, but you'll be getting lots of food and things like that. So yes, it's ticketed.
But it's a very reasonable price actually, because we've made sure that it's a very modest price. It just covers the cost. We're not making a profit on this. It's just basically covering the costs.
The chance of making a profit are nil.
No. But we're doing it because we just love the history. We've got this now, and we want to bring people together and celebrate it, and see what comes of it, and start fresh with all the. I think the big parliament is very exciting for us as well, because then it gives people from the clan the chance to talk about what their future will be and what direction we want to go. So I think the parliament is as exciting as everything else, really. And start creating all the new traditions, really.
I could maybe just drop in a credit here. We're very lucky that we've got a Buchanan couple, Paul and Shona Gibson, who are event organisers by trade, and they have been fairly central to booking marquees and organising and preparing stuff. Slight difficulty that they live in Australia, but they've been extremely helpful to us.
So is Matt, who's doing
yes, absolutely.
And yeah, so a lot of people and Buck, and he's organising things. So a lot of people, everyone's getting together. The marvellous thing about this is that Buchanans are all around the world. Buchanans are global. We did the research, and we found that there are about 5.5 million people with the name Buchanan around the world.
Or Buchanan or Watson
or Watson Gibson, and all the set names. People with a different family set names are really important to us, and we're going to celebrate them at the event as well, because it's not just people with a Buchanan name. It's a lot of family names with that, and people with Buchanan names, or the family names, quite rightly. We're all, every single country around the world, I found. Except for the Vatican and North Korea. So we're everywhere. everywhere. So we want to celebrate that kind of international, global presence, our presence, and then use it as a positive force to get people together, and it's a wonderful network to have. And you know, it's great to be able to, you know, even through COVID and all these other issues, we can talk to people internationally, and it's a great support system. And I think it's something that, you know, we're family. We've got a huge thing in common, and we really are family. I mean, a lot of people, you know, and our family. When you find out, look a bit deeper. So that's a great thing. It's a really positive thing.
Can you tell us who is going to perform the ceremony at the inauguration? Is it going to be a politician, or is it, you know, who?
Not a politician. It will be Buchanans. Buchanans who are performing the ceremony. They will have different roles in the chief's court. So it will be Buchanans who are organising it. I think Malcolm Buchanan from Australia, he's organising the ceremony. So ask him. So, but it'll be a whole different lot of, it'll be canons. We'll work out who's coming, and then we'll from that we will kind of assign different people different roles.
So you met. Oops, Michael.
No. Yeah.
You mentioned having 500 Buchanans worldwide, and you did mention about the reconstruction or building of a new parliament. It's going to be a very international group, I think.
Definitely. The biggest number of Buchanans and the other Watsons, Gibsons, etc. are American. Quite a lot in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, but as Paula says, everywhere, and a reasonable number at home here in Scotland.
Some in South America and most places. And also, there's just to let you know, Lusk Games is also important. Lusk Games is Lusk is a place close to the Buchanan lands, the other side of the Loch Lomond, and we're going to have it. We're going to go to the Lusk Games, and we hope lots of Buchanans will go there as well, because there's the inter-clan competitions there. And there's not competition at all, but it'd be nice to see lots of Buchanans there. There we go. That's an event we were. That's previous Lusk Games. I think Mike was down away for that day, but and it's a great. And the BBC will be there as well, because they want to see what they want to understand about what the chief's role, the clan's role, how everyone gets on. There'll be other clan chiefs there as well, so they're very keen to see actually what do clans do. And this is a perfect event. The Lusk Games, I think, the beginning of July, the first weekend of July. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, it is. It's going to be very much a clan affair. We've got Clan McFarlane, Clan Graham, obviously Clan Buchanan, ourselves, Clan Hunter, Clan McEwen, all taking part in this event, and it's going to be a spectacular event. As you say, with the BBC filming the whole parade and a clan battle. So I think that after this webinar, all the clans who are taking part is going to actually send out details of it, but it's going to be a spectacular event in July.
It's the opposite side of the lake, isn't it, to the where Buchanans were. I'm sure they used to kind of sail over. I can imagine it sailing over in their boats and lobbing things at each other. The Greens and the Buchanans, or McFarlane's on somewhere else and whatever. So they're great. It's a great time to everyone get together. All the Loch Lomond side clans to get together and regroup and try and support each other and you know, create all these different ceremonies together. I think it's wonderful.
Indeed. So tell us about the future. You know, we're going to have this new, you know, the inauguration, and then what happens thereafter for the Clan Buchanan?
Well, I think we're quite lucky to have not just one, but two clan societies. The first one was the first ever clan society, which is the Glasgow-based one. It's charitable. It looks after Buchanans in need. It has a fairly narrow remit. The second one is Clan Buchanan Society International, and that is hugely international. It has branch offices in, I think, every single state in America and countries all over the world. So there is a structure in which we can communicate and advertise and get together. there's a network of Highland Games across the states, and I've had the pleasure of going to New Hampshire for their games, and going out to Australia to Sydney and Canberra. And I expect to travel to a couple of such things every year, that sort of program, and visit one or two Highland Games in Scotland, mostly the more local ones like Luss. So, yep. And then that's what I'm up to, but it's not just me. I've got 4 children, and before I was the Buchanan of Buchanan, I was already, we knew, the Buchanan of Lenny and Arnprior, and so I was a chieftain rather than a chief, for definite at that stage. And actually we found at least 3 different branches that I was effectively chieftain of, and I've renounced my claim to those chieftainships in favor of my children. So here you have them. On the right, you have Rory, who is going to be Rory of Buchanan of Auchleshie, and his sister Lucy, who will be of Lenny. And on the left of your screen, Bruce will be of Arnprior. Angus at the moment won't get one because the expectation is he might be the chief of Buchanan, but the other 3 will all become chieftains in their own right, and whereas I can wear 3 feathers in my hat, they will each be able to wear 2 feathers in their hat.
This is good because it's trying to get the younger people involved, and that's really key for us, because as they're involved, they'll be more interested, and because we're giving them roles, Mike's giving them roles, they're much more interested, and they're much more taking part in different organising different events and taking part in whatever. So it's great because they know what young people are interested in, and that will hopefully encourage other young people to take part. And they'll help us raise awareness of different issues that are important to them. They'll help, looking at what young people want to raise, to help raise the profile of the clan, and to find out, how other young people could get involved, because that's what it's all about. It's the future. It's not just stuff in the past. We actually want to move forward in the future and be more inclusive, and also for the other people in the clan to have their own roles. So it's not just our children, but it's other people. We'd love other kind of homagers. I never say that word. It's homagers to come forward, and other people for the chief's court, and just build more of a structure so that different people have different roles, and they can have their own specialities and get whatever they want out of it, and just participate and everyone working together. I think to be more like a clan, a proper family group, which it was in the past, really. So it's moving forward, and actually we're so lucky to have this international kind of, not many countries have this kind of system, so we're really lucky to have a family group. So it's making it. Yeah.
We're not alone in this. There is a standing council of all the chiefs in Scotland, and they have moved afoot to have an heirs forum and see what all their various heirs want to do and get on with. So yeah, other people are doing something similar too.
Yeah, before we leave this part of the topic, I think it'd be great if you just quickly tell the story about the lion with tears, who is no more.
Oh, that's the Clan Buchanan, the flag.
Yeah. Right, I mentioned Clan Buchanan Society International.
Right.
You can see behind me my standard. The Clan Buchanan Society's flag is very similar, but the lion is shedding tears, and the tears represent the fact that they don't have a chief, or didn't have a chief when they created it. So there we are. Thank you. That's a good picture. So there's the lion with the red tears. Now the question then arose: now we do have a chief, should they keep them? And so apparently they are going to keep them, and they're now tears of joy that they do have a chief.
It's a good adaptation.
Excellent.
Well, this is a fascinating and a wealth of information. So The Buchanan and Lady Buchanan, I hope you'll share more of this family lore with our listeners. So I'm going to hand you back to Michael Lloyd Stearns, who's got questions from our audience.
Indeed,
Michael?
yes. This is your opportunity to ask the Buchanan, Lady Buchanan, some questions here. I've got, is it Matthew from Australia? Where is Matthew? Where is Matthew? Matthew, have you got your mic and you can ask your question? Where is Matthew?
Rolls.
Matthew.
I can see his question there. It's modern roles. Modern roles. If you're talking about what modern roles are, well,
Oh no, hang on. That was it. Was that the first one? I think this is the most recent one here. Oh no, here we are. Yeah, okay. Modern roles, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, the world has moved forward. The world has moved forward, and we need to reflect what's going on in the world. And I think, you know, we're very keen on different issues. We're very keen on the environment. We're keen on you know, different, you know, women's rights and you know, and making things equal. That's why kind of our daughter is also getting the kind of a role as well, because it actually Scottish clans are very equal that way. Because in England, I think it's just the eldest sons who get things, but in Scotland, it's actually kind of it's women who are also involved as well. So I think we're trying to make things more equal and look at all today's values and move on those environmental changes. Or you know, all these different things with being more inclusive are very important to us, and that's why we want to get more of the different family name, people with different family names, and show that we're just one family, yeah, and have these strong family values, really.
Yeah,
I think one part of the job is possibly being an unpaid offshoot of the Scottish Tourist Board.
I don't know about that.
There are an awful lot of Buchanans around the world who would like to visit Scotland, and I think by promoting the history and providing something for them to look at and so on, that will hopefully enthuse some of them.
And support your family, wider family, who are here, really. So it's yeah, to support family.
Yeah.
Indeed. I've got a question, several questions coming up here, but I've got Caroline. Caroline, can you actually ask your question?
We met at last, didn't we? Oh, what did you say?
We can hear you.
Is there to be a formal wording of something that's to be said when you get inaugurated? That would have been something that might have been said, you know, back in the past.
Well, that book that you saw on the previous slide, that actually had different wordings of previous events. So I don't think we're going to go strictly with everything as they wrote, because we've got to modernize it a bit. But it's something kind of on the lines as the ceremony written in a book.
I think that's the template for what we're doing, is in that book, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a question here from an anonymous attendee. For those who will not be able to attend the inauguration, will there be the availability to purchase souvenirs?
Absolutely, I thought. Yes, I would have thought so.
Good idea.
There are some things available for people who are going to be there, and so that they'll mark for their being there. But there will be, yeah. If you look at the Buchanan website, we will sort something out for that. If you need that, if you like that, then we can get some kind of memento for the event. Absolutely, that's possible. Yeah, absolutely.
There will be something you can only get by attending. But there will be other things, I think, that you can, other people can get.
Yeah, I think Lucy's designed a new Buchanan inauguration tartan, which has got really fresh colours. I mean, you've got a very good not with bias at all, but we've probably got the best tartan of all clans. But Lucy's designed another tartan, which is equally beautiful, and it's for the inauguration. And so we're going to use it a lot for the day itself as well. It's just not for everyone to wear particularly, but it's to use it in different contexts, just to celebrate the event itself. And that will be some lovely pinks and blues and fresh colours to reflect the other kind of Buchanan fresh colours used. So, and some of these might be made, some of that inauguration tartan might be made into things that people can buy on website, and even if they're not attending, to mark the event. And you can get those. I think there's a plan possibly to get some of those sewed with different people for the event details and things like that, embroidered with event details. So I think there will be. So look at the Buchanan website and CBSI website, and then you'll, in due course, in the next few weeks, hopefully something will come up with that.
It's perhaps just worth noting quite a few people asking questions there about will there be whiskey and things, and replies from Paul Gibson. That's the Paul I mentioned from Australia earlier. You can see he's on the case.
Oh.
I've got a question here. Explain the relationship between Buchanan's MacAuslin as the Cahoons intermarried with many MacAuslins.
It was a very ancient name actually around the Loch Lomond area. I'm sure there was and they could have, there were the early Buchanans, in the Loch Lomond area. So it's difficult to know exactly where different names started, because they're so ancient. We're talking of 1,000 years ago, well over 1,000 years ago, that unfortunately all these things weren't written down then, because it was all tribal and it was all kind of Druid, and so they didn't write down traditions. They kind of had an oral tradition for many of the early stories, and so a lot of things were lost when things moved over to paper. And if they weren't written down, then a lot of things might be lost. But we have a lot of the stories, and we have a lot of information from modern heraldry, which kind of, when things went from oral, they were kind of put onto paper, and that's why, so you see like Clan's symbol of animals is a bear or a lion or whatever, and it's the things that Clan might have been exposed to in the past. I'm not quite sure about lions, but bears and things like that would be relevant for that.
I've got a question here. Someone's asking, will this ceremony, the inauguration, be streamed live?
I'm not quite sure. We need to think about that, because because they're filming with the BBC. I'm not quite sure. It'd be nice to be filmed live, and it might be restricted to some people, for perhaps Buchanan or something like that. So we'll work on that. We'll see what we can do. But we're definitely going to get our own film of the event, not including the BBC, but our own film, so that can be preserved and shown in the Buchanan tents, all Buchanan tents in the future for different Highland Games. So we're going to keep our own record of that, this event, and all the people who are taking part in it. That would be kind of like a time capsule. So that's really key for us. So it's not just the BBC. So yeah.
Okay. I've just had a message here from George in Scotland. Said if you go to scotlandshop.com, they've been appointed as the main sponsors for the inauguration, and they'll be producing some bespoke items.
Well, there we are.
There we are. Thank you for that.
Thank you, George.
We knew George was on the case. Well done.
Thank you.
There me. Have we got any more questions for the Buchanan and the Lady Buchanan? And then there's George. George, you've got your hands up. I'm going to allow you to talk, George. There you are. George from Scotland.
Hi, Michael. I was basically just to reinforce the fact that Scotland Shop have been appointed as one of our main sponsors. We have a questionnaire that's available if anybody's interested, that they can fill in requesting items and what type of items they would like, so that they can start producing these items long before the inauguration gets there. You can basically go to their website, pick anything you want, and any of the clan tartans, it can be embroidered with the details or engraved with the details to commemorate the day itself. Anyone who's attending the inauguration can pick them up on the day at Cambusmore, or they can be shipped anywhere in the world.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that, George. Thank you.
George, yes, thank you. We knew you were on the case, but that's terrific news.
Fantastic, thank you.
As you can tell, this is still work in progress. We've still got quite a few months to go, but that's a good step forward.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got Rona. Rona, I think you've got something to say. You've got your hands up. Can you ask your question?
Muted at the minute, I think.
Yeah, she's muted. You're muted. No, we can't hear you. You're muted. I've got someone's asking about the last event and how many clans are going to be participating. Well, it's on our website and it's going to be on everyone else's website. But as it stands at the moment, the participants are as follows: Buchanan, McEwen, McFarlane, Hunter, ourselves. So far, that's what we've got. But we've also got the following clan chiefs attended. We've got the Duke of Argyll, got the Duke of Montrose attending. We have Sir John from McEwen. Currently, we think that Sir John from Clan Cunningham will be also attending. So it's going to be quite a large affair and quite a spectacular affair. But we'll keep you posted because I think before the event starts in June, July, there's going to be a lot more clan chiefs attending. So watch this space. Are there any other questions before we, oh yes, and Clan Hunter, apologies. just had my knuckles wrapped there. Are there any more questions from the attendees? No, there is not. I don't think there are. Oh, hang on a second. Martin from Clan Hunter. Okay, Martin. So, yeah, as part of he's talking about the scramble. So as part of this event, the whole idea of the Lost Games and why we're getting together as clans is because rather than do battle on the in the fields with swords, etc., we're going to be doing battle on the games field, and there's going to be prizes for the winning clan, and obviously we expect it to be Cahoons.
Come on, Buchanan. We're going to be there. Yeah.
The details can be. We'll also get. Yeah, it's going. I think that it's going to be on all the clans' website, the Buchanan websites, the Graham websites, etc. So all the clans who are participating will see the full program and will be able to sign up for the events and to take part in the clan golf that we are organising. So it's going to be a very spectacular affair. I've got a question here from Lynn. Any other books with Buchanan history can you recommend? This is from Lynn, Onshore Island. Are there any?
Oh gosh, there are lots of. Depends on what aspect of clan history you want to look at, really. The website's really good. Actually, Matt Buchanan keeps a very good website. That's actually really almost encyclopedic. I mean, it's just amazing, the information he has there. I saw things I'd never seen before on his website. So I would take a look at CBSI website, and because I think that's really pretty impressive. I would definitely look. It's a lot of information there. But I mean, even that early heraldry, because our early heraldry were actually 3 bears affecting the Lenny line, I think. And I never knew that until very recently. But anyway, he finds sources from goodness knows where, and pulls them all together. So it's pretty impressive. So as regards books, there are certain books, but I would look for that website.
Indeed, there are. Well, that's it. Van, over to you. I think we've done all our questions there.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
well, okay, the Buchanan and Lady Buchanan, this has just been fascinating. It's wonderful. I learn things all the time listening to you, and it takes me back to a place I think none of us can really envision until we see it brought forward by events like this. So thank you ever so much for giving us the opportunity to question you, grill you, if you will, and participate in our webinar. We appreciate it very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed for giving us this opportunity. And we look forward to seeing all Buchanans come to Canvas Moor and join us in October later this year. We'd be honoured to see you there. It'd be really, really exciting. And we're working on it every day. And anyway, it's going to be a big event. So we look forward to seeing you there then, hopefully.